Here is how I would fix my 20s if I had the opportunity. One of the main things that I did wrong is trying to fit the image of the whole going to school to get a good job. You all know the routine. You go to high school, graduate from high school, go to college to hopefully get a good paying job and live happily ever after. But I honestly hated school. I did well at it just because I didn't like being there and I didn't want to spend more years in college than I had to. During my last 2 years of college, it became really clear to me that I wasn't sure if this is what I really want to do for the rest of my life. I remember my junior year and it was time to pick electives. And obviously I wanted to choose something that was easy just so I can get the credits and move on with my year. And I made the mistake of choosing astronomy. That ended up being one of the hardest classes I've ever had in my life. I thought all I was going to have to do show up to class, look at some pictures of some planets and some constellations and call it a day. The class was filled with all kind of science principles and math equations, and then we had a semester-long project to where we had to go and take pictures of each phase of the moon. So during this semester, I really started to think about, was I happy being in school, if I was happy taking this route? But I suppressed those feelings because I would always hear, it's risky to do anything else. The safe thing to do is to go get a job and these companies will take care of you, which a lot of times they don't. As you can see, even these days, you have layoffs, you have hiring freezes. You can't rely 100% on companies. It's clearer now more than ever that we have to have different ways of creating income and giving ourselves the best chances of being successful. If I would have realized this in my 20s, I probably would have created way more opportunities for myself than I did. But since I did go to school, I wish I would have thought more seriously about the major that I chose for college. Instead of actively looking at which majors pay the best when you get out of school, I only looked at things that I thought wouldn't be too difficult. So I ended up choosing marketing. Once I got out of college, I realized that marketing degree wasn't really worth much, as I ended up being a manager trainee for a pest control company with that degree. I remember so many of my friends that went to school for degrees like psychology or social work, and they ended up with the same amount of debt that I had, but with lower paying jobs also. So by not having at least an idea of which majors paid more outside of computer science, I probably would have thought a lot better about what I decided to major in. I mean, it's cool. You hear all the time, follow your passions and, your passions will lead you to where you want to be. But a lot of times your passions don't pay the bills. So I would have taken a better approach to see which majors pay the best, but also majors that I'm interested in at the same time, and not just looking at what I'm passionate about. Now, the next thing might be the biggest issue that I was dealing with in my 20s, and that's having a victim mentality. I had a bad tendency to blame everybody and everything around me as to why I wasn't successful and why I wasn't accomplishing the things that I wanted to do in my life. If I didn't get a job offer, I blamed it on the company. If I didn't have any money, I blamed it on politicians and our country. Now, this subject of the victim mentality can be pretty touchy for some people, but honestly, my life didn't change until I got out of this mindset. It just seemed easier to blame somebody else. But by blaming other people, it causes us to not be honest with ourselves if we are putting in the effort or not to get the things that we want out of life. It was funny because I got to a point to where I was forced to take personal responsibility. I remember it vividly. My wife was pregnant and I was in my late 20s. I had just made the change into software, but it was my first job and I wasn't getting paid a lot at all. We were in a tiny apartment and we were expecting a baby. But as I mentioned, this was after I had made the change into software, and by actually accomplishing that goal, it changed my mindset for the rest of my life. It gave me the confidence to understand if I set a goal and I make a plan for it, if I don't give up and I work hard, that I will achieve that goal. So I remember it like yesterday. I don't know if y'all may be familiar with Gary Vee. He had this flip challenge.
My big belief is this, my friends. The 2017 flip challenge is this.
Which basically was, you take something out of your home that you're not using, whether it be clothes or appliances, whatever it may be, to sell it on eBay to start making some money. So because of my bad spending habits during college, I had a lot of higher end clothing that I really didn't need and I didn't really use anymore. So I started to sell these clothes on eBay, which was intimidating for me because I didn't know how to sell on eBay. I didn't know how to ship things. I didn't know how to handle customer service or complaints if somebody had an issue. It was all new to me. But the confidence that I gained from switching into software, I knew that if I can make a career change, then I can figure this out. So I started doing it and I started to make some money from it. And I kept building and I kept reinvesting the money that I was gaining to the point now to where that income takes care of all of our bills. So that little flip challenge that was introduced by Gary Vee turned into a small business that supports me and my family. But how would I have gotten that type of result if I never took personal responsibility and decided to step out of the box and try something different and try something new to get a different and new result? than what I was getting before. Another thing is debt, and debt really set me back a lot in my 20s because I didn't take it seriously enough. When you're young, you kind of have the tendency to look at debt like it's just, another bill. As long as I pay this amount, I don't hear anything from anybody, and I was happy with that. And because I'm only paying the minimum amount, that interest starts to build up over time. I remember I kept paying and paying, and I would see my principal amount only move very little, because obviously the bulk of your payment goes to interest because the banks want their money first. So by not taking debt seriously, I ended up actually paying a whole lot more than I should have, because once you start getting older, it's harder to start taking debt more seriously because you have more responsibilities. So your better opportunity is to start taking advantage and getting rid of your debt while you're young. The next thing was, because I wanted to make more money, I did some risky investing and risky financial decisions to try to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. Instead of working to acquire more skills, especially business-wise, I would use the little money that I had to try to make a lot of money very quickly. So I tried everything from trading big board stocks to penny stocks to even stock options. There was no investment that I was not willing to try to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. So this put me on a financial and an emotional roller coaster. I will go through periods to where I will make a lot of money very quickly, and then I will go through other periods soon after to where I will lose a lot of money very quickly. And any money that I was getting from my paycheck, I was not even using it towards taking care of my debt. I was using it to keep putting it into these accounts and trying to hit a home run with the money that I was investing. Basically, when I look at it now, I was pretty much just gambling. Instead of just taking care of my finances as best I can, have a real plan, get rid of my debt as best I can, and then start investing in index funds or something very similar to where all I have to focus on is contributing every month and letting it build over time. It's way more sustainable, and you will have way more success doing this. Another thing is I didn't value my time enough. So your 20s are a very interesting time period to where if you take advantage of it, it could set you up for the rest of your life. So you may be working, you have some income, but then you're on your own and you have more time. You have more freedom as to what you want to do and how you want to do it. And this is the first period in your life to where you'll have this. This is my time to enjoy myself, which is true, but you want to make sure that if you're enjoying yourself and you have this freedom, do something that's going to set you up in the future. I remember I would get home from work and the only thing I would think about is gaming. Get home from my job because I hated it, and I would do that for hours, and that would be every day after work. Now imagine the amount of time that is each week and what that could have done if I used that time to learn a skill, and how well I could have been off if I would have taken advantage of that. So you may see the common occurrence here as to why I wish I would have done things a little bit different in my 20s, which all revolves around taking advantage of my opportunities and my time, because you can't get that time back. So if you didn't take advantage of your 20s, it's not too late. You can still take advantage of the rest of your life, but just be clear about what you want and how you want to get there. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope my story helped you out a bit. If so, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel for more content like this.